Hey everyone, it's Aesah, and welcome to my video on trait web fundamentals. Now that we have a new set coming up soon, you may have to rely on kind of building out your traits using your fundamentals rather than relying on kind of copy pasting meta compositions. By trait web fundamentals, I simply mean that every single unit in TFT, well, almost every unit, has two or three traits, and some of the power of that unit is locked behind activating those traits. So, for example, if you play Jinx, you really want Marksman, otherwise, she's not going to be as strong as she could be to her full potential. So, I'll use some off meta stuff because in set 14, if you guys have been playing, you kind of already know what comps are good. But let's say we want to play around Jinx and Galio. The first thing I would look out for is like what marksmen can pair with Bastion frontline because there's no Street Demon Bastions. So I'm already thinking that I want another marksman. If I do a Phelios, I feel like this is not a good pairing because there's a Golden Ox Bruiser and a Golden Ox Vanguard, but no Bastions. So I'm thinking that maybe it could be like Xayah plus Alawi. This is like one potential way to like link in Anima Squad. Maybe it could be like Jhin and Sejuani. This is a potential way to link in Exotech. Again, to go with some off-meta stuff, if we go Jinx and Gragas, there's one unit that immediately stands out, which is Dr. Mundo, being immediately Street Demon and Bruiser with both of these units. If we don't want to use Mundo, I'm thinking Xayah is probably not going to be it because there's no Anima Squad Bruisers, and that means it'll be kind of hard to activate her traits as well as your frontline efficiently. Otherwise, you're going to need too many units and Um, once again, if you're using units and not activating all their traits, a lot of times it's a little inefficient. That being said, you're never going to have perfect synergies. You're always going to have some units on your board where you're not using their traits. But one thing that I could see is like a potential pairing here is Alistar and Aphelios. You could also do potentially Jhin and Mordekaiser, and potentially activate Exotech this way. Um, one more thing about trait webs is it's important to activate traits that are actually useful. So let's say we use our Dr. Mundo here, and then we go like Senna, for example, who's Divincore and Slayer. Slayer is actually not very useful because we're only giving Slayer to Dr. Mundo. It just gives him more AD and Omnivamp. His ability, most of the healing from it is just from the actual heal part, not from the Omnivamp from damage. He doesn't really scale off AD that well. So Slayer is actually not that valuable if we're playing around Jinx and Gragas. Senna herself will get Slayer, but we much rather just give Marksman to our Jinx if she's our primary carry. Of course, if we have it the other way around, where Senna's our primary carry, then maybe this Jinx is not important. Another thing to keep in mind about trait webs are oftentimes you'll see a lot of meta compositions activate kind of a wide range of traits. Something like this one, for example, you'll see it'll be like two bruisers. Um, this one frequently has Poppy. So it'll be like two bruisers, two bastions, basically a lot of two-piece traits. Okay, I guess this one's not the best example, but oftentimes you'll see this. The reason is two-piece traits tend to be the most efficient. So for example, let's say we're playing Dynamo. We're playing an Elise carry. When we add in our first Dynamo unit, that one unit is gonna give 4 mana per 3 seconds because it activates two Dynamo. The next unit we add only gives two, so it only gives half the benefit because going from two to three compared to one to two. The benefit once again goes up once you go to four. So a lot of times you'll see this at the high end of the trait because now it becomes a big investment because you're kind of implying that you're reaching this on high level and you're going to have to play some weak units to fit it in. Dynamo might not be the greatest example just because a lot of these units are pretty valuable. Slayer, as mentioned earlier, might be a better example where the first Slayer you add in. So let's say we're playing Vayne, primary carry. This is our main carry. Our first Slayer that we add in gives her 15 AD and 15% Omnivamp. but then we have to add 2 more Slayers for only 25% AD and 0 additional Omnivamp. So each additional Slayer is only giving 12.5% AD and no Omnivamp. So basically your first Slayer is a lot more valuable than your second and third Slayers. Of course, they're gonna come with other benefits, but just purely looking at Slayer. Oftentimes, going from 4 to 6 becomes a bigger boost, and this is because in order to go to 4 to 6, at this point now, let's say these are the 4 Slayers we want to play. This was kind of the meta comp, 4 Slayers and 4 Vanguards, but now if we want to go to 6 Slayers, we actually have to play some pretty weak units between Dr. Mundo and Shaco. So not every single trait is designed this way, but basically the jump from 4 to 6 kind of has to be stronger in most cases in order to incentivize you to actually go for it. So that was kind of a lot of things. The summary of that basically is your 2-piece is generally going to be the most efficient. We can look at Bastion as well. So with Bastion, our 2-piece gives our entire team the 10 armor and magic resist, and it gives Bastions this 18 bonus MR that's doubled at the start of combat. Whereas when we go to 2 to 4, we only get the exact same bonus without the team wide, with 2 more units instead of just adding 1 unit. Of course, this bonus will apply to all 4 of our Bastions, so there's some value there. But basically, if you're just trying to make one really strong tank, let's say we have a Galio, 3-star Galio, we want to make him strong. It's really efficient to just add in 1 more Bastion unit, but adding in 2 more Bastion units is really not that efficient. And then once you get to 6, it kind of goes the other way around, where the jump from 4 to 6 becomes kind of big again, because at that point you're investing so much into Bastions, they kind of have to, Riot kind of, has to like incentivize you to do that. That's going to wrap it up on this video for Trait Web Fundamentals. Once again, going into the new TFT set, keep these things in mind. A lot of times, a lot of the meta stuff is not really figured out yet, and just have fun with it. If you have any comments or questions, let me know in the Discord, and thanks for watching.